Hey guys, how's it going? Srey here. Today I want to talk about something a little bit different, and that is the role system that Blizzard has implemented into the game. So there are 5 roles, but really 4. We have Warrior, Assassin, Support, Specialist, and Multiclass. The Multiclass only consists of Varian, at least for now. So the reason I want to talk about this is that this has bothered me for quite a long time, and it's not the fact that there are these roles in the game. I think that's fine. I think it's the way that people view it, especially less experienced players. So less experienced players have this vision of the game where every team needs to have, one support, 1 or 2 warriors, 1 or 2 assassins, and maybe 1 specialist. Or you can't have 2 specialists on a team, or you can't have 3 assassins on a team. Or you just have this. You have to have this super archetypal comp that consists of these roles, and these roles are not indicative of what the heroes do in the game because they're very, very generalized. Warrior is basically just like a melee hero. It could be a tank, it could be a DPS, it could be a support hero, it could be anything, but it's basically just a war. It's just a melee hero. Support is kind of a ranged utility hero. Assassins are kind of a sustained or burst ranged, and the only difference with specialists really is that they typically have really good siege and they usually have good wave clear. They don't have any kind of burst or mobility. That's typically how they're classified. So there's no problem having 2 specialists on a team if it's the right 2 specialists that you need for your team. There's no problem having 3 assassins in your team. There's no problem having 2 or 3 warriors in your team. It completely depends on the comp that you're trying to run and the heroes that you're trying to pick. So I just want to say very briefly that Varian should be he's classified as a warrior slash assassin, but really he's just a warrior. I mean, there's yes he has different tiers, but he's not the advertised 6 classification hero that Blizzard told us. He's really has 2 specs, tank and DPS, and both of them can be classified as warrior because both of them are kind of brawly kind of specs. So the issue I have with the role system is let's talk about the specialists. So a really good example is Sylvanas. Sylvanas is the in this tier, I think Sylvanas is the hero that most is defined as a hero that's not a specialist. Her and Medivh. So Sylvanas, when I think of her, the only thing that is anything related to being a specialist is the fact that she stuns buildings. And a lot of other heroes in the assassin tier are really good against structures as well. And just because Sylvanas can reduce the power of buildings doesn't make her a completely different classification than the heroes in the assassin category. So let's look at both here. So when you're picking a hero on your team, you want to look for a certain thing that the hero possesses. So Gul'dan has really good sustained AoE range DPS. Okay, and Sylvanas has really good sustained ranged AoE DPS for the most part. They're pretty similar in roles, so they shouldn't be. If you want to have Gul'dan on a Sylvan on your team, then you can have a Gul'dan on your Sylvan on your team. You just have to make sure you're looking at the comp. So there's nothing wrong with having more than 1 specialist. There's nothing wrong with having multiple assassins. It's all about what the hero does on your team. So, of course, you probably don't want to have a Gazlo and an Azmodan and Lost Vikings. And in general, a lot of the heroes in the specialist category are, for the most part, either really difficult to play properly, or they have kind of a really asymmetric game style, or they're just not strong. So there used to be in this category, Medivh, Sylvanas, and Abathur and Vikings are all very strong in competitive play, as long as they're played in the right comp. And they're still strong in kind of hero and quick match as long as you're good in play. Medivh is just really high skill cap, but the other heroes, I mean Hammer can be played in competitive as well, but we have Hammer, Zagara, Nazeebo, Murky, Azmodan, Zul, and Gazelle. They're just not that viable right now. So just coincidentally, a lot of the heroes that are specialists just happen to not be strong heroes in the game. But there's nothing wrong with picking multiple heroes on your team that happen to be specialists. Just because they're the same role that Blizzard has assigned doesn't mean you can't have multiple specialists on the same team. The only reason you wouldn't want to have multiple specialists on the same team is because, well, it just coincidentally a lot of them are just not viable. So there's nothing wrong with having a Medivh and a Sylvanas on the same team if it's the right job. So if they have a Kerrigan and you also need wave clear, then you can pick both of those heroes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And indeed, when Zagara was really popular and Sylvanas was really popular, and when Hammer was really strong, I think they were all strong at the same time or a similar amount of time. all those heroes were being played in similar team comps or in the same team comp, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And Zul was also really, really strong before he got nerfed, and he was played constantly, almost every single game, especially on wave clear maps. He was first pick, and you could have and Zul Zagara was not unheard of at all, and that was a completely commonplace thing. But then I'd go into quick match or go into Hero League and then say, oh well, now we have a crap comp and we can't win, and that's just absolutely not true. So this is kind of just a pet peeve of mine. The other things I want to talk about are in the warrior tier. So Zarya is more support than she is really tank, but she's in the warrior role. I don't think she should be out of the warrior role, but she plays very differently than a hero like ETC, who has a lot of CC, because warriors are generally brawly, burly, CC oriented heroes. Not always, but a lot of times they are. Sonya is I mean, she's not a tank. Like warriors are not always tanks, and she's more of a bruiser hero. So a lot of these heroes in this category are bruisers. It categorizes basically all kind of melee things. So warrior is kind of a bruiser category. And then for support, we have a lot of different styles here as well, but for the most part, they all heal. But Tassadar doesn't heal. Monk outputs a lot of damage, um, and Tyrande can also do really high DPS. And you know, Rhaegar and Melf are pretty much basically supports, but they play completely differently than having a Tassadar team. Like you wouldn't want to have a solo Tassadar team. So applying the same, and everyone knows that, and applying that kind of same knowledge to the other tiers should be totally acceptable. We also have Gaul in this category, but everyone knows that Gaul isn't the most valuable hero. And Ragnaros actually plays, Ragnaros and Illidan both play a lot like bruisers more than they do assassins, and Thrall kind of fits that as well. So I just want to make it kind of clear and aware that you don't need to pick a team based on these categories. Just pick a team that you think is strong. Ignore the categories. Think about what the heroes bring to a team fight. It's like, why do you pick a tank every game? Why do you need to have a tank in your team? You need to have a tank in your team to fulfill certain requirements of a team comp. You need that hero to be able to absorb damage. You need for that hero to have crowd control. You need that hero for peel, most importantly peel, and most importantly engage. But what if the enemy team is running a team that doesn't have any of that? What if they're running a team that has like a Zarya and a Johanna, something where they have no engage and you don't need peel. You don't actually need to run a tank. Maybe you can run a bruiser, but you don't always need to run a tank. Like you could replace like a Sonya or running like a Sonya Artanis in that same comp would replace having like a Mirrodin instead. So just think about what the purpose of the heroes you're picking is, and don't just blindly pick heroes because you feel like you need to fill some kind of meta role requirement, because that's not how the game works, and that's how you get outdrafted. Think about what the heroes bring as strengths and weaknesses. Think about your comp and what the strength of your comp is and what the weakness of your comp is, because every comp has a strength and every comp has a weakness. And it's up to you as the player to find out what those strengths and weaknesses are. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope I'll see you next time.